Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I decided to do something a little bit different, which is to actually step through a game that I played a couple of minutes ago instead of playing live. And the reason why I decided to do that is because I feel like both the quality of the chess and the quality of the commentary suffers when I'm trying to do them both at the same time. In fact, when I started this channel, I was rated in the 1860s, and now I'm rated in the 1750s. So I lost about 100 points just by trying to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So hopefully this way, both the quality of the chess and the quality of the commentary will improve by disentangling concerns. Another thing I wanted to say is um, for the five of you who watch my YouTube videos, if you have some game that you'd like me to step through and give feedback on, or just sort of provide some analysis, feel free to post a link to it in the comments in the description. And yeah, I can do a video of it, stepping through it, and potentially giving tips. Also, if you want to play with me live on YouTube, that's also something that we could do. It could be fun. Um, yeah, let me know. Without further ado, my opponent in this game is Capo Verde 63. He opened with e4, and then I responded with e5. The next move was knight f3, developing the knight and attacking my pawn. And I went ahead and defended the pawn. Uh, and then there was c3. So this move is clearly preparing to push the pawn and also open a line for the bishop. And at this point, I did what I usually do, which is to push the f pawn. When I started this game, I thought I would do something different. I said, well, I won't move the f pawn this time, but it's kind of a bad habit at this stage that I have. Most of the openings that I like have this f pawn push. So the Latvian gambit, the Rousseau gambit, the King's gambit, from White's point of view, they all have this pawn push. I like that they make the game really dynamic. Uh, they they allow for this queen shift later that then you can use to attack the castled king if you castled king side. They also, once you've castled, and if you exchange this f pawn away, it allows the rook to barrel down this file, this f file. And if you also put your bishop on this diagonal, then you're doubly hitting that f pawn, and also this f pawn ends up pinned to the king, and so that means that that pawn can't protect this square. So if white actually moves this pawn, as they usually do to prevent you from installing like a knight or a bishop there, then effectively uh, this square right here ends up completely unprotected if this pawn is here and this pawn is pinned. So and you also have the rook there. Anyway, that's a lot. But the point is, I really like pushing this f pawn, even though it does have some serious trade-offs. For example, the trade-offs are that you do end up opening a lot of lines to your king. So, for example, the classic is the queen can come here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you put your knight here if this knight ever moves away, so that you can guard that square. The other thing that happens is that this line opens once your king castles. So the bishop can come here and give you check. They can pin anything that you end up putting on this diagonal. And also, white can outright prevent you from castling just by doing this and by sort of being stubborn and keeping their bishop along this diagonal as you sort of harass it. So it definitely has some trade-offs, but personally I find that it leads to very dynamic and very fun games, so I tend to do it. Uh, so next, white protected this pawn like this. Personally, I think that was a mistake because what they end up doing is they end up boxing in their bishop, because this pawn can't move. And also, really, it was unnecessary. I mean, um, I think in this kind of situation, you're better off just doing like a counter gambit kind of thing, attacking this pawn, and doing the threat of having the bishop come out. But bishop d3 was played, so I captured. White captures, and then there's knight f6 to attack the bishop. Attack the bishop like this. So as you can see, this white bishop has moved 3 times in the opening. Once to come out, once to come out here, a second time to capture, and now it's going to move a third time to run away. So it's not a very efficient use of turns, right? Especially in the opening when you want to bring your pieces out quickly to central locations. White is spending 3 turns moving the same piece around. And I push the pawn to attack the knight. Notice that this pawn is protected by the knight, and he captured. And that's when I realized, well, I can capture, but then he can. Oh, sorry, I can capture, but then he can pin my knight. So this is a little bit troublesome because he can pin. His knight is my knight is pinned to my king, and then he can attack it. So this is the classic strategic idea of attacking the pinned piece, and it's troublesome. So what I did was actually to put my queen in the way, so that my knight is no longer pinned, and even better if my knight moves away somewhere. Now our queens are sort of mutually pinned. So anyway, this was a way to protect the knight with the queen, and also if he tries to attack it, he can move away, no problem. Basically, he's not pinned anymore. Next, white castled, and then I popped this pawn. I was hoping to also pop this pawn, and then put the bishop here, where it's now protected by the rook, and it skewers the queen and rook. But he didn't allow that. He went ahead and doubled up on my knight. So I protected the knight, and this knight is now attacking my knight, which I went ahead and defended. At this stage, I'm thinking of castling queenside, because, I mean, my queen is doing all this work protecting this knight, so that means she'll never get out of the way for this bishop to go anywhere. It's going to be super slow. I'm going to have to pop this pawn to enable the bishop to do anything useful. It's going to be a while, so I was thinking to castle queenside. Next, the queen comes here. Effectively, there's now 2 attackers on this knight. And also, he can now capture my knight because, well, actually, no, he can't. He can't capture my knight, but there are 2 attackers on this knight here. So what I did next was to put my queen here. So I'm adding a defender to this knight. There are now 2 defenders and 2 attackers. So that's okay. Defense cancels out attack. And also, I'm putting in a double attack on this pawn here. So if he doesn't do anything about it, next move I'll capture, and it'll be check. And when his king moves, I'll capture the rook, and then it will be checkmate. Or actually, it'll just be check, but then he has to interpose with the queen, and then I capture the queen, and then it's checkmate. So he pops his pawn here to scare away my knight. I move the bishop out to pin the knight to the king. I'm basically giving up this knight, but that's okay because at this stage I am up a bishop. I have 2 bishops. He has 1 bishop, and he has 2 knights. I have 2 knights. So if he takes my knight, we'll be even. He takes my knight, and then even though I had previously planned to castle queenside, at this point I decided to castle kingside. And now you can see I'm getting the benefits of having pushed that f pawn. I have this this crazy powerful duo hitting this f square, which by the way is also sort of indirectly controlled by my bishop once this knight is disposed of. And he decides that my attack is pretty strong, and he decides to come back and defend. So sometimes that I sometimes use as a rule of thumb sometimes is to um, try to have more attacking pieces than defending pieces. And it works conversely when you're defending. You want to try to count the pieces that are attacking you and the pieces that you're defending with. And uh, it can be hard to calculate the details of an attack, but this rule of thumb sort of tells you if an attack has water. And what you can see here is that I have one, two, three pieces attacking, four if you count my bishop that's also lined up with this pawn. He has one, two, maybe three. This knight is very questionable. Pieces defending, and clearly they're outnumbered, right? He has sort of three pieces out here doing nothing. They're just chilling out. Whereas basically all my pieces are doing something except for this rook. So clearly the black pieces are better developed. I went ahead and captured one of his defenders with arguably one of my weaker pieces. He captured back with the pawn and then check. He hides in the corner, and then I go ahead and take this pawn. So what I'm planning to do is actually I want to unleash this monster bishop along the diagonal, and the way I'm going to do that is to push this pawn. That does mean that this bishop will be blocked, but that's okay. I can shift the bishop over here, and he will also be a monster along this diagonal. So there's this uh, terrible bishop pair that is bearing down really hard on the castled king. So if you count the attackers now, it's one, two, three, four. That's not a piece against two. So you can see this attack is likely to actually work. Without calculating details, we can sort of get a sense for the strength of the attack. He starts to bring out his pieces because really that was a problem that he had his three pieces on the backbench doing nothing. Um, so now I actually unleash this monster bishop. He captures, and I go ahead and shift my bishop as was planned. He brings out his bishop, um, and now I am threatening checkmate here. Um, and he goes ahead and pops his pawn so that the pawn is protected by this other pawn. Except that, just kidding, no, it's not, because this pawn is pinned. So in the next move, I go ahead and capture it, and his check. He has to move his king, and then the next move is checkmate. So basically, every single piece here is playing a role. Okay, except for this rook in the corner, but this rook is bearing down on the f file, taking away that square. Um, this bishop, okay, it's not playing a role in this exact position, but it did play a role in enabling the attack. I was only able to capture this pawn because that bishop was pinning the defender, and this dark squared bishop is providing the support to the queen. So there you have it. That's the game for today. Let me know how you like this format versus playing live, and also let me know if there are some of your own games that you'd like me to step through and provide commentary on, and also let me know if you'd like to play a game with me live on the YouTube channel. Thanks. Bye.